Hey y'all, welcome back to Ascending with Ashley. I'm Ashley. And this is Movie Mondays, Monday Movies. We're here talking about Hunger Games, and we're on Mockingjay Part 1. And I rewatched them because last week's was not good. I was blabbering. So, I took notes last night and I watched. And I have all these notes, and most of them are quotes, but the quotes are important. So, let's get started. Spoiler alerts are very happening in this. If you haven't seen Hunger Games, the links are below. They're free on YouTube. Watch them. This is the third movie. And this is when the shit starts to get real. Like real. When the people fight back. And we're in this time now. Folks are preparing for the strike next week. That video on my channel has gotten over 3,000 views. And it's really exciting. Folks on TikTok, everyone, there are lots of people who are like, this is not whatever, but there's plenty of us that are ready. So I want to share how in the Hunger Games things are done. Okay. I'm sharing this so that we can take what is given to us. If you haven't watched the other ones, we're critically analyzing these movies for parallels in our own lives. That's not a conspiracy, that's being smart, okay? So, the very opening scene of Mockingjay Part 1 is with Katniss and Finnick. And Katniss, Finnick says to Katniss, I wish they were dead. I wish they were dead and we all were too. So, that starts the fucking movie off, and that lets you know how dire the situation is, okay? There's a lot of shit happening right now in our country, especially. I'm in the United States, if you didn't know. The United States is going to get its ass handed to it very soon, and we're all gonna have to fucking deal with it, because we're here. Alright. And the United States has always fucked over its people, just like President Snow. So, then, they're kind of getting Katniss ready to be like this Mockingjay, be the face of the revolution, because what she has done in the other two movies has really motivated and encouraged others to stand up. And so they're like primping her and getting her ready, and it's very scripted, and Haymitch is like, that's not Katniss, whatever. And they have a conversation about remind them who the real enemy is. Reminding people who the enemy is, because Katniss is pissed at District 13 and everybody around her, and they're like, she needs to remember who the enemy is. A couple years ago, I made a video about resistance and a common enemy. And when you understand how this system that we live in, that's not a movie, works, you understand that there's one enemy and the rest of us have been used to fight each other and stay at arms with each other and divisive and all of this to keep the true enemy in power and continuing, like everybody's blind to it. The next quote I have is important. It's Mr. Snow, President Snow, as he addresses Panem, which is all of the districts. It's 12 districts, but then we find out in this movie that there's a 13th district that left and is a military district. So that's where other folks, after their districts are being killed and ruined, which we're also seeing in our real life, I couldn't help but make parallels to what's happening in Maui last night when I was watching this movie. And it's not, I don't want to be disrespectful to the folks that are actually living through that. So I just want to say, I see parallels. I don't want to go into it further. So this is when Snow is addressing everybody. All right. Citizens, tonight I address all of Panem as one. Since the dark days, Panem has had an unprecedented era of peace. It is a peace built upon cooperation and a respect for law and order. Where have I heard that? In the past weeks, you've heard of sporadic violence following the actions of a few radicals in the Quarter Quell. Those that chose this destructive path, your actions are based on a misunderstanding of how we have survived together. It is a contract. Each district supplies the capital like blood to a heart. In return, the capital provides, wait for it, order and security. To refuse work is to put the entire system in danger. I'm going to stop. It's not all the way done. But to refuse work is to put the entire system in danger. So to all these motherfuckers who are talking about a strike is stupid, what the fuck, to refuse work is to put the entire system in danger. Okay? The capital is the beating heart of Panem. Nothing can survive without a heart. Which is just ironic, too, in the whole, movie, because your heart is your ability to love and care. And so for these motherfuckers who have been sacrificing children and now have bombed all of these districts and killed thousands of people, again, we're seeing this in real time in our lives. So to say that that's the heart, seems like there's a pretty big heart problem. I also want to just speak to a couple other things. There's been a lot of conversation about what a revolution or rebellion would actually look like here in the United States. And a lot of people are saying they're going to always say that there's the actions of a few radicals, right? And we've seen this with the war on terror, especially. And 9/11 is what kicked my ass into decolonizing. So we've constantly seen this rhetoric, and we've grown up with it being so deeply embedded in us that a lot of us don't even recognize it. So that's why I'm pointing it out. A terrorist, right? These fucking World Trade Centers blew up, but they had these passports of the people that did it, right? Shit doesn't make sense. And just like what we're seeing in Maui right now, everybody got obliterated, but there's fucking umbrellas standing. Okay. So I want you to understand how that power works. They will always scapegoat, they being the system as a whole, right? And everybody who participates in that system will always stick up for that system and blame any sort of standing up on, a group of rebels, radicals, criminals, thugs. We've seen this language constantly. And that will get people riled up because of the programming that they've received, and they will fully support the system that's also oppressing them to maintain order. We've seen this with the Black Panther Party. We've seen this with tons of people in our actual country alive. This is how they do it. And that's why we've talked about conspiracy theories being a systemic tool, because they're trying to discredit folks that are putting pieces together, and people who have knowledge bases, done research, people who are credited, have put these things together. And that's when they fly in 2020 with these are conspiracy theorists. And now we are just so deeply entrenched in that fucking language and rhetoric that, again, we're at arms with each other. It's lovely. All right. So during that, he says the capital is the beating heart of Panem. Nothing can survive without a heart. Then he's doing public executions as in the districts as he's speaking. The criminals that kneel before you use symbols for the use of sedation, which is why all images of the Mockingjay are now forbidden. Possessing them will be considered treason, punishable by law, or punishable by death, excuse me. All right, so now we're going to move on to the brainwashed PETA, because we're already at 10 minutes. I'm sorry. So the Capitol is torturing PETA and using him to try and get Katniss to surrender or whatever. And he's being interviewed by the Capitol as propaganda, as is Katniss making these propaganda videos for the other side, for the rebellion. So that's why you need to be able to critically think, so you know when you're receiving information, who's behind it. All right. And in the interview, the guy asks PETA something about, well, how could she have made these acts of, like, such violence acts? She obviously doesn't know what she's doing. Do you think PETA, and remember, PETA is being tortured and brainwashed as this is going, so this is part of that. Do you think, PETA, that she has no idea, or that she doesn't know what she's doing? And he says, yeah. So the interview, I think I wrote a blurb, not verbatim. Unless she's being forced to say things she doesn't even understand about enticing senseless acts of violence. And that's how the state scapegoats, right? We just talked about that with the other things before I got there. So then I want to share Gail's testimony. They go to District 12. They're making more propaganda for the rebellion, Katniss and her team. And Gail's testimony really reminded me of Maui, and I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. I mean, it's talking about what happened. So Gail's testimony, we were all standing right here watching the games when you fired that arrow. The screens just went dark. Nobody had any idea what happened. Peacekeepers forced us back into our homes. For maybe an hour, the town was just dead quiet. A little past 9, we heard their trucks pulling out. All of them. Every single peacekeeper. And I knew what that meant. Me and a couple guys from the mines started pulling people from their homes, trying to get them to the fence line. But a lot of people were scared of the forest, so they headed up on the road, make a break for it that way. 915 of us made it to the fence. Then we watched as the bombers circled back towards the road. They firebombed them as they ran away. 915 out of 10,000. So that's Gail's testimony about what happened to District 12 after, like, Katniss took a stand. And then was rescued by District 13. So anyway, as the movie progresses, she realizes the mind fucking that's happening. And she says that they're using those you love to taunt you or taunt us. She is talking to Finnick about Annie, who is his partner, and PETA, who the Capitol has and is actively torturing. And then they go on a rescue mission. Some folks go on a rescue mission to go get the victors, PETA and Annie and, what's her name, Jacqueline? I don't know. The other chick, the crazy one. I like her. And then they have Finnick, who is another victor, make like an interference video for the other districts that the Capitol can't see. And he says, "You can survive the arena, but once you do, you are a slave. Snow rules with deception and fear." And then, as that's happening, shit hits the fan, and they lose contact, and they're, like, as the people are in the Capitol trying to get the kids out, or the guys out, people out, and then Katniss is like, "Oh my god, broadcast me, let me get Snow's attention." That's the president. So, she's like, "Hey, I'm here, bitch, talk to me." And they have a little conversation, and he says something like, he says, "Miss Everdeen, it's the things we love most that destroy us." And then he says, "I want you to remember I said that." And that's as, like, the people are taking and, like, doing this, escape with these other folks. And then he says to her, it's not verbatim, I didn't write it down, but he says there's something like, you think I don't know your friends are trying to get PETA out? And then they let them go. They let them go without any issues. And so then we find out that they turned him into a weapon to kill you. That's a quote. They brainwashed and tortured PETA so badly, and instilled all of that back at Katniss. So he tries to kill her at the end of the movie. Of course, it's a movie. She doesn't die. But they turned him into a weapon to kill you. So a few things that I really wanted to just touch on quick that are important. I think that Gale's testimony is very important to understand how the state doesn't give a fuck and will always sacrifice folks, especially with what we're seeing right now all over the world, but especially here in the United States and Canada. We're seeing these fires on Indigenous land, and like the treaties that those folks had signed with the government have already not been honored. So there's like this last ditch effort to do this land grab and get all of it's the continued genocide of Indigenous folks, clearly. And so I want you to understand, they firebombed them as they ran away. What we just saw that happened in Maui, despite what conspiracy theory you believe what happened, the way that situation was handled, even Congress, even the Republican side of Congress is calling on an investigation on what happened. Okay, that was, okay, anyway. And then I just want you to remember, Miss Everdeen, it's the things that we love most that destroy us. So I want you to take that for what it's worth. Remember that, especially in the Hunger Games, these children sacrificed to continue this control and complacency. The things you love most, obviously. This is referring to a romantic love, but I just want to put it out there. Until our children are not getting killed, there's not going to be peace. There shouldn't be. And then, yeah. So those are my notes. I am going to do the same on Mockingjay 2. I'm going to remind you one more. All right. But I think this part too, where they talk about how the peacekeepers forced them in their house. So there's lots of conversation about COVID right now, and the resurgence of that, and talking about how lockdowns are coming again. If you're not on that side of the internet, I don't know what to tell you. It's happening. So peacekeepers forced us back into our homes was kind of a parallel there. I think there's still a lot of untruth from the first time we went through all that. So like I said a few videos ago, I don't remember which one, winter is going to be rough. But we need to remember this line in particular. To refuse work is to put the entire system in danger. Remember who this system benefits. Remember the sacrifice that you and your families have had to make for this system. Remember that you are a part of an ecosystem much larger than systems made by man. And remember that we have human rights. All right. I hope you all enjoyed this. Watch the videos. They're good. They're good. Have a good one.